Who actually was Molly Malone? Was she a real person at all? And maybe the more pressing question these days, why is everyone touching the statue for good luck? To figure this out, we have to peel back a few layers of Dublin's history, dig into some old folklore, and have a look at a rather strange modern habit that's taken over one of Ireland's most famous monuments.
Alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
The story of Molly is all tangled up in myth and music, a real symbol of the city. But lately, it's become the centre of an awkward chat about public art, superstition, and maybe just having a bit of respect. So, what's the legend? What's the story we think we all know in the mind of any Irish person? And sure, millions of tourists as well. Molly Malone is the classic Dubliner. The legend paints a picture of a beautiful young fishmonger pushing her wheelbarrow through the streets, shouting cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. The story goes, though, that because she was poor, she had to walk those same streets at night, selling herself. A desperate situation, really. Her story ends tragically. She dies from a terrible dose of a fever. Some reckon it was from the grim conditions she lived in. Others say it was a disease that she caught from one of her nighttime clients. And after she died, well, the myth says that her ghost still pushes that barrow through the streets of Dublin, broad and narrow, forever crying her wares. But was she ever real? That's where the story gets a little bit blurry. The truth is that nobody really knows. There's not one single scrap of concrete evidence to prove that Molly Malone from the famous song ever existed. Now, the name Molly itself, it was as common as could be back then. It was just a friendly version of Mary or Margaret, and there would have been countless Molly Malones born and bred in Dublin over the centuries. But here's the thing, not a single one of them can be properly linked to the fishmonger from the song. Despite the total lack of hard evidence, Dubliners have been arguing about whether she was real for ages. Then, in 1988, a claim popped up. Apparently, a real woman named Mary Malone had died in Dublin way back on June 13th, 1699. The thinking was that Molly could have just been her nickname. Now, this was never properly proven by historians, but it was good enough for the Dublin Millennium Commission. They were dead eager to celebrate the city's 1000th birthday that year, so they officially ran with it. They declared June 13th Molly Malone Day, and just like that, she became a sort of realish historical figure for the city. So the woman herself might just be a ghost story. But what about the song that made her famous? Now that is very real. It's often called the unofficial anthem of Dublin. Cockles and mussels are in Dublin's fair city. You'd think a song so tied to Ireland must have been written by some fella in an Irish pub, in a Dublin pub. But the history of the tune is a little bit more complicated than that. The first time it was ever written down and published wasn't actually in Ireland at all. It was actually in Boston in America around 1876. It was just stuck in a book of college songs. A few years after that, in 1884, it was published in London. The London version of the song actually gives credit for writing it to a different fella altogether, a guy named James Yorkston from Edinburgh in Scotland. The music was arranged by an Edmund Foreman. So hang on a minute, is Dublin's famous anthem actually Scottish? Well, it seems that the version we all know and sing probably is, but the story of Molly Malone in the song goes back much further than Mr. Yorkston. Bits and pieces of her character show up in much older ballads. For example, there was a song from 1809 called Widow Malone that mentions a sweet Mistress Malone. Then there was another one from 1836 titled Meet Me Miss Molly Malone. That's a mouthful of alliteration there. I'd say whoever wrote that did really well in their English Leaving Cert exams. Joking aside anyway, even that famous line, alive, alive, oh, that wasn't unique either. It was a real shout that you'd hear from vendors selling oysters and eels on the streets in the 19th century. There was even another song called Cockles and Mussels, published around the same time, but it was set in London and was about a fella named Jim. Yeah. Sure, you know Jim. But the most scandalous version of all, now this is a good one, was only rediscovered in 2010. It was in an old book from 1791. This one has a sweet Molly Malone from Howth, but there's no tragedy, no fever. It's a much cheekier song altogether, and it ends with the singer declaring, and you might want to close your ears for this one, "Och, I'll roar and I'll groan, my sweet Molly Malone, till I'm bone of your bone and asleep in your bed." Now that's a bit different from the song that does be sung at sporting occasions. So no matter who wrote what, it was that cleaner Scottish version from the 1880s that really caught on and became the song that we know today. It became famous really because it was exactly the sort of song for the time. It was a bit tragic, it was a bit funny, the kind of thing you'd hear in old music halls. Over the years, the song just got massive. It became a proper folk classic. You had everyone recording it, from legends like the Dubliners and Sinéad O'Connor right up to U2. Even fellas from America like Seeger and Bing Crosby had a go at it as well. The song is everywhere in our culture too. The Irish soap opera Fair City has its name from the very first line as well, but it pops up in all sorts of places, in classic books, and even in a Stanley Kubrick film, A Clockwork Orange.
She was a fishmonger, and sure it was no wonder, for so was her father and mother before, and they both wheeled their barrows through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
So, how do we get from a ghost story and a Scottish musical song to one of the most famous statues in all of Dublin? And more importantly, what started this bizarre modern habit of, well, grabbing it? To get to the bottom of the modern carry-on, you have to look at where the statue came from. Back in 1988, during those same Dublin Millennium celebrations that gave us Molly Malone Day, the Jury's Hotel Group decided to commission a big bronze statue of her. It was designed by the brilliant Irish sculptor Jean Reinhardt, and the Lord Mayor himself unveiled it at the bottom of Grafton Street. Reinhardt's design was, well, it got people talking. She sculpted Molly as a very busty young woman in 17th century clothes, with a very low-cut top. Now, the historical reason given was that women back then would have dressed like this. They would have breastfed in public even, and that style of dress was just normal. But a few other people saw it as a clear nod to her other job, her unproven nighttime profession. And because of that revealing outfit, the statue as well got a classic Dublin nickname. You know how awful we are at rhyming things like. She was christened the Tart with the Cart. In 2014, the statue had to be moved to make way for the new Lewis tramline, so she was shifted around the corner to where she is now, on Suffolk Street, right outside the tourist office. And it was around this time, just before she was moved, that a very strange new trend started. Tourists began rubbing the statue's chest while getting a picture taken. According to RTE, this seems to have started only about in the last decade or so. The story goes that it was kicked off by some imaginative tour guide who wanted to make his tour a little bit more interesting. He just made it up, told people that touching her bosom would bring them good luck. And from that one little fib, the rumour just took off. It got stuck in the heads of tourists and was pushed along by the tourism industry itself. You had website articles saying things like, they say that if you take a photo with her while touching her breasts, you will return to visit the city. One website, Viabam, however you pronounce it, took that down after the BBC got in touch with them about it. As you can see on screen here, I used the Wayback Machine to see what the website said a few years ago in comparison to today. They claimed not to know anything about the movement and took it down right away, but it just shows you how a silly rumour can turn into a so-called tradition that's completely made up. Now, some people might see it as a bit of harmless fun, a bit cheeky, but the reality of it is a bit different. And to be honest, when you really do think about it, it's just a bit silly. Of course, Molly Malone isn't the only statue getting this kind of treatment. All over the world, you see visitors polishing bits of statues for luck. In Brussels, you rub the arm of one statue or a little monkey on another. In Paris, people queue up at the cemetery to rub, well, the crotch of a journalist's tomb for fertility. In New York as well, they line up to rub the testicles of the Wall Street bull for money. Now, if you've personally rubbed the balls of that bull there, hey, can you comment down below and just let us know if you've won the lottery or something like that, you know? Or even just found a fiver on the ground. I really need to know if it works, you know, because YouTube just isn't bringing in the big bucks, you know. Look, I've got a family to feed here. But messing aside, you can see how it happened with Molly, can't you? The formula was already there. You've got a famous statue, a whisper of a superstition, and boom, off it goes. But let's be blunt about it for a second, and I'm an awful skeptic for things like this. There's absolutely no such thing as a lump of metal giving you good luck. It can't grant you wishes or change your future. Believe what you will anyway. I think it's just a trend, and people are only doing it because other people have. Deep down we know as well. Deep down we really do. We're not going to find a fiver on the ground. Getting a photo with the statue to remember your trip to Dublin, absolutely grand, go for it. But sticking your head between a statue's breasts like this gentleman here, it's just a bit embarrassing, isn't it? And campaigners and locals as well, Well, they've had enough of it. The singer Imelda May spoke out, asking why, and I quote here, "The only statue in Dublin with breasts is basically assaulted in front of our children's eyes daily." A Trinity student named Tilly Cripwell, who performs near the statue, started a whole campaign called Leave Molly Malone. A lot of the male statues in the city are up higher, on high platforms, while Molly is left at street level for stag parties and anyone else having a grab at it. Like we've seen with the Luke Kelly statues. We'll take this one for example. These ones across the city have been vandalised countless times. I think if it's within reach, it will be vandalised. All the outrage did make Dublin City Council do something about it, but their efforts haven't gone very well. Campaigners asked for a statue to be put up on a higher plinth to physically stop people from reaching her. The council said no. They claimed it would cost a ridiculous amount of money. Over €100,000. But anyway, yeah, as we know, they didn't move her up in a plinth. Instead, they hired stewards to patrol the statue. And what do you think happened? The tourists behaved themselves when the stewards were there, but the second their shift was over, the groping started right back at it again. It just wasn't going to work. So then, to try and save a bit of money, the council decided to put big flower beds and planters around the base. A sort of natural barrier, similar to what worked with the portal, but that didn't work either, and I think they're not there today. I'm not sure, you can let me know in the comments, but it basically didn't work either, right? Let me just put this picture back up of that gentleman earlier on. Do you see the plants around the statue? Yep. So despite all this modern madness around her statue, Molly Malone's real story shouldn't be about a bit of shiny bronze in Suffolk Street. Her real monument, the thing that will last, is the song. It doesn't really matter if she was a real woman walking the cobblestones of old Dublin, or just a great character made up by a fella in Edinburgh. Molly Malone is bigger than all of that. She's become the spirit of the city. So when you hear the song, when you hear Alive, Alive, Oh, and listen to the story, that's the real Molly. It's a celebration of the city's ordinary, working class people who made Dublin, who made Ireland, and the broader regions that hold countless millions of Irish diaspora. And not to forget, our love for a good story. The song makes sure that even though the poor fishmonger might have died from an illness all those years ago, her story will never really fade. Her ghost will always be there, pushing that barrow through the streets, living on in the voices of everyone who sings to her tune. But what's your thoughts on the whole statue thing? Harmless fun, or a bit of insensitive carry-on? What should be done about it to protect it a bit more as well? Do let us know what you think on it. But before you go, if you could go the video, that'd be great. Right, I swear to God I'm not doing that again. I will stop it. I did it on the whiskey in the jar video. It was a bit of fun. I couldn't not do it again here. I just saw the opportunity and I took it. But as well, sure, if you're enjoying these videos too, feel free to subscribe as well. YouTube will notify you from time to time of new videos being posted. Also, if you're a musician, for example, or you want to get some merch out there, or maybe you're even interested in getting your own designs up and share them with people around the world, I have to say Fourth Wall has really made it super easy for me. They're not sponsoring this video or anything like that, but they basically handle everything from hosting your store, hosting your website, to production, to delivery. I don't even use their website to its full potential even. But sure, have a look to see what's possible. I can't reiterate how easy it is to get it set up. I've left my referral link in the description below, so if that's something you're interested in, do use that, as you'll get $20 sample credit to use towards getting a physical look at some of your creations. And look, if you need any help navigating it, I'm more than happy to help answer any questions. Just feel free to post it in the community section on this channel. Finally, thanks a million to you all for sticking around this long. I really appreciate it. I do hope you enjoyed this video. By the way, just before you go, right, have you ever heard of an Irish goodbye? Now, I thought it was hilarious because I did it all the time to my friends and I didn't actually know it was a thing. Basically, it's